This is the Bullseye Podcast.
And we be back with just another great podcast coming your way. Still waiting for some action to happen in sports, so we're going to go back and go do what we do here. This is Bullseye on the Bullseye Network, on the Bullseye Podcast, on the Bullseye frequency of your life.
Everybody wants you. Everybody wants you.
And welcome back to the show. I wasn't very tight on that, but look who's back. It's Angelo.
Hey, Bullseye.
How are you? Where you been, man? Where you
I'm
been?
great. I've been working very hard, hiding out from the coronavirus.
Yes, you're afraid of it. It's afraid of me. It's afraid of me. Afraid of the coronavirus. Come
You're
on.
the most dangerous man. You're the most dangerous man in podcasting.
Oh God, it's just you just got. I don't want to say it. You got to have an immune system. What can I tell you? So anyway, be safe. Everybody, be safe. Wear the mask. The masks are getting fashionable. You see them now? They're real. Okay, you can really
you can
express
have the
yourself.
logo of your choice now, right?
What color's your mask?
I have a New York Jets mask.
Boy, you are brave. You are brave. You put it right on your face?
Right on my face.
Right.
I'm a walking target. Abuse me, it should say.
So glad you're up there in North Jersey, staying out of trouble. That's good as we wait, for the baseball season. Now, question: you're a Mets fan. What is up with Cespedes? What is that story? Cespedes. What is that story?
I mean, he's gone. Right? He's COVID opted out because of COVID, and who can blame the guy? The Mets kind of botched it a little bit with how they handled it. They made it into a PR disaster. What else is new with them? But essentially, it boils down to that Cespedes is gone. He's a COVID opter-outer, and his contract is up. That's it. So he won't be back next year.
So he hits one mammoth home run with nobody in the stands.
He hit two homers. I think he hit two, yeah.
Oh, boy. You know what? Sports is never going to be the same.
Nope.
Never. That's why we're going to talk about the past, man.
All right, sure. What do you want to talk about?
Speaking of that, the NFL's coming, and of course, you knew I was a big, I'm a big wrestling guy, and the XFL I was really interested in, and that had its problems. Right. And lo and behold, we find out that The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and his ex-wife, Danny Garcia, have formed a group to buy the XFL. That's pretty dynamite, don't you think?
$15 million bucks.
Cheap.
It'll be interesting to see. Yeah, it is cheap for the rights to all of those properties. I get, if you have $15 million bucks laying around. But I'm interested to see what sort of direction they're looking to take this thing. Are they looking to just get back into trying to be a football league again? I got to tell you, I've gotten really bored with the idea of kicking off a new spring league. Every year we're having a new entry, and every year they flop terribly. And, I got to tell you, frankly, the XFL is going to have to be something extraordinary to get people interested, don't you think?
Well, from what I hear, the people are clamoring for spring football. I don't get it, but this is what I'm hearing. The Rock involved, it's going to be a theatrical thing, and I think the NFL has seen its best days too, quite honestly. So
we'll see about that. Yeah, we'll see about that. This is not going to be a memorable NFL season coming up if they even get to play or complete it. No hitting, no practicing, working out, looking over playbooks. We're going to see some sloppy football come September if they even play. I don't know how they're going to play. I just don't know how they're going to play.
You don't want me to get into this. You got to start putting people in stands. Come on. You got to start putting people in stands.
Let's talk about wrestling.
And the reason I wanted to talk about wrestling was about The Rock buying that. And, I'm a big wrestling fan. Mostly in the 80s, I was a big WWF fan. And the 70s, Bruno and Pedro Morales and people like that. And
superstar, Billy Graham.
I still go to the old autograph shows. I've met Ted DiBiase. I've met...
have you? Great guy. Very religious now, by the way.
Yes, and his son as well.
I didn't know that.
So he put me in this finishing sleeper move, you know. And yeah, I remember him with Virgil.
Yeah,
you know,
the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, buying the title.
Yes,
yeah.
Bought you know, and Mick Foley I've met, and he was unique. Nice.
You know
guy.
what? You know where I met Mick Foley? I met Mick Foley at a Twisted Sister concert in New York City, probably about 10 years ago. It was around Christmas time, and he was sitting right behind us, and he was wearing a big Santa hat, and he took up 2 seats.
He had a book or
he was
something.
the coolest guy.
Yeah,
it was right around the time the book came out.
Right, he was writing these books.
Actually.
Yeah, it was a very nice guy. And then I went to a off of one of the piers in New York. They had a WrestleMania kickoff, and I got into the tent, and he was like throwing down sliders. So I was like, "Hey!" I go, "Hey!" I was with my kids. I go, "Hey, Mick, what's your favorite character of all the?" You know, he was Dude Love, right? He was Mankind, and so he goes, when I was a referee. I go, why? No, he goes, no,
funny.
General manager. I go, why? He goes, I didn't have to change my clothes. He just came right in, did and walked right out. He didn't have to put anything on. He was a general manager. He was a referee.
That's funny.
But he was more in the 90s, of course.
Yeah.
And with ECW and the attitude and the blood and the those were scary times because they had to compete with the WCW, you know.
Well, I don't even know about ECW. That's even past my wrestling prime.
Oh, really?
I'll
Are
tell
you kidding me?
Yeah.
Tommy Dreamer? You don't know guys like Tommy Dreamer? And
I mean, I know him, but
Paul
I don't remember that name.
Paul Heyman?
I was WWF and some NWA in the 80s when TBS got into our homes and they started airing NWA wrestling. Right. You know, it was like Ric Flair,
Gordon Soley.
Gordon Soley, right?
Absolutely.
One of the best announcers ever. Gordon Soley.
Come on, those guys are
So, you know, when you talk about The Rock, I think about his father, right? Rocky Johnson.
Rocky Johnson. And his
from back in the day.
And his grandfather.
And his partner.
His grandfather
was...
High
Chief Peter Maivia, I think.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Those were the days. And Rocky Johnson's partner, remember, he was a tag team champ with Mr. USA, Tony Atlas.
With Tony. Well, he had a lot of tag team partners. He had Tony Gurria for a while. You know, Tony Gurria had Dean Ho and Tony Gurria. Then they moved around. Remember Dean Ho? Dean Ho.
I remember Dean Ho. But Rocky Johnson only held the tag team title with Tony Atlas. He didn't win it with Gurria or anybody else.
Rocky Soul Man Johnson, boy, he was for those days. He was built, man. Yeah, that's no steroids.
Both of those guys.
How do you?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there were steroids around back then, but who knows if guys were using them so copiously as in the mid to late 80s. I don't know.
I'm gonna throw a few names.
All I know is the guy was pretty built.
I'll throw you a few names of my favorites of all time. See if you have any recollection. Ready?
Yeah,
Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Oh yeah, Ed Leslie is his real name.
Very good.
He was a good wrestler. He was more flash than form, but you know he had a good push as the barber, cutting everybody's hair.
Right. Yeah, that was a good friend of Hulk Hogan to this day in real life.
Right. They were all the way back down from Florida, I guess.
Right.
And
exactly right.
And he was partners with Greg the Hammer Valentine. They were the Dream Team.
I used to love Greg the Hammer Valentine.
So great story. There's another guy that I met. I was about 18 years old, and I was working out at a fitness center here in central New Jersey. And it was a pretty big and popular place. And it just so happened to be the place where some of the pro wrestlers would work out whenever they were in town for a card. So we would occasionally see like Jake the Snake Roberts, Magnificent Morocco, just all of a sudden on the workout floor, right? So one Saturday morning or something like that, we're in the fitness center, we're kind of exercising or whatever, and there's Brutus Beefcake and Greg the Hammer Valentine. So my friends egged me on to go over there and talk to them. Go say something. I don't know what to say to them. So I just walk over there anyway, right? And I'm an idiot. The guy's like literally in the middle of a set, like benching 225, right? And I'm like standing right next to the bench, like waiting for him to finish his set. And he sits up, sweat is dripping off of him, right? And I'm an 18-year-old idiot standing there. And I said, I couldn't think of anything to say. So I said, are you guys in town for the card at the Meadowlands tomorrow night? And he looks at me, Greg the Hammer Valentine looks at me and he says, no, I'm here because I fucking love New Jersey in the middle of February.
Nice. That's perfect. Fits the character.
It was perfect, right? So I slinked away like an idiot, right? And told my friends what happened. They were laughing at me. But looking back on it 30-something years later, right, Bullseye, I wouldn't have had that story turn out any other way. It's perfect.
That's a great story. That's a great story.
And let me have it. It was perfect.
Their characters aren't far from who they are in real life.
Probably not. I mean, they got to come from somewhere, right?
Well, that's
it's
how McMahon
like,
kind of created it. You know, like he would get the Undertaker, right? He actually he worked at a graveyard.
Actually, I didn't even know that. How about that?
What's his name again? Mark, whatever his name is. He worked in a graveyard, so that's where they kind of came up with it. Did you ever see the documentary it's on that floats around, and it's on the Vince McMahon and the WWE and these wrestlers who tried to make it. It's a documentary. You should watch it.
You mean Beyond the Mat?
Beyond the Mat. That's Beyond the Mat. Beyond the Mat.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I watch it from time to time. Absolutely. I watched the one
when
about
he told the guy to puke.
Bravo.
When he told the guy to puke, he goes, "You got to puke, right?" Because the guy said
that
one wrestler said he could puke on demand, and Vince McMahon goes, "Let me see you do it." And he goes, "From now on, you're going to be called Puke." I forget what the guy's name is, but he didn't make it.
I don't even know that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The puker. I don't remember the puker.
You said Dino Bravo. You said right.
Yeah, I remember that guy.
Yes.
He got. Yeah.
He went from a good guy to a bad guy, and he dyes his hair blonde.
Right. And then
he's a bad guy. His hair is blonde now. You know.
And if I'm not mistaken, his death was kind of mysterious circumstances, like murder or something like that. I don't think
there's been a lot
of wrestlers.
How about the death of Adrian Adonis?
You know that one happened. That was in an accident, a car accident,
yes.
A minivan accident.
I thought it was in a mountain or something. Was he driving on a
they drove off a ledge or something to avoid an animal in the road, and they tumbled into and I think he was the only person in the accident that died. I don't remember. There was a few midget wrestlers in the van with him.
Well, I mean, most of these names I tell you have had tragic deaths, like not tragic. Yeah, tragic. Bam Bam Bigelow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's another one, right? He died pretty young.
He died very young.
Yeah.
Out
of Asbury Park, New Jersey.
Neptune, actually, Scott Bigelow.
There you go.
He was a wrestling champ at Neptune High School. He would have been right around my age. I remember I saw him on a plane I was going somewhere, Las Vegas and something, and I had asked him, how much money you guys make? He said, $250,000 flat fee. No health insurance.
Wow.
No health insurance.
Wow.
Now you're talking.
For all that pounding.
That was 25 years ago, though. Maybe 30 years ago.
Sure.
30 years ago.
Sure.
At least. So
you figure the pounding they're taking, he's not. The only medical care they were getting was steroids.
Yeah, well, I think the WWE is different now. It's a corporation, and injuries. I think they're insured. They self-insured. They kind of take their own money and have their own doctors and do that.
But not in 1980, 81, 82.
No,
there wasn't. I imagine if you got hurt in those days, you didn't work and you didn't get paid, and you found another gig.
I also met Jimmy Snuka right before he died.
He's passed.
Yeah, and he had a cold case against him. You know that, right? That there was a woman.
Yeah,
who died.
Of course. Yeah, it happened in, I think, sometime in 82 or 83. Yeah. And all signs point to the fact that he most likely killed her. Never been proven in court. I believe that he died before he can get, I don't know. They were trying to revive the case.
They're trying to say it was roid rage and all that other stuff, which, could have happened, but who knows? But he's gone.
He was the worst in the interviews. He couldn't string a sentence together. Always getting names wrong. I seen an interview where he called Roddy Piper. He called him Ronnie Piper.
Superfly. Roddy Piper was
Jimmy
great.
Snuka.
You mentioned Roddy Piper. Piper's Pit was classic.
He knew how to bring the heat, and you bring up Snuka. Do you remember the time on Piper's Pit when Piper smacked Snuka in the head with the coconut?
Yeah, absolutely.
Smashed it in his head and threw bananas at him and kicked him around while he was down. Started their whole
and of course it was on Piper's Pit that Andre the Giant challenged Hulk Hogan to the World Heavyweight Championship, and then Andre took Hogan's shirt and ripped it, and then Hogan had blood on his chest.
Right.
He said, "Andre, no! Andre, no!"
We're brothers, man. Don't do this, Andre. No. Right. And then a week or two later, they got the big contract signing, and that was the biggest. That match was the biggest. The hype behind that match was 2.5 months.
You kidding me? I was
huge.
jacked.
Huge.
I think the only time I was more excited about an event was Super Bowl III. Honestly.
Wow.
That's how big it was. That's how much I was into wrestling. Later.
Yeah, that was a very big event. And what's really funny about that, though, is they pushed this Andre Hogan thing as if they had never been in a ring together. And
they've been in the ring about 500 times.
A dozen times. They fought each
more
other.
Than a dozen.
They wrestled at Shea Stadium in 1980, the showdown at Shea. They headlined that card, Andre versus Hulk Hogan. So it wasn't like it hadn't been done, but it was 7 years
it's
prior.
A soap, but you forget. It's a story.
Well,
that's all.
Not only that, and it is a storyline, and you do forget. But not only that, though, consider that the eras had changed. Wrestling in 1980 was still a regional thing, and if you were watching in New York, you got a different wrestling than what you were watching in Atlanta or in Chicago or in Texas, right? There was a regional product.
Absolutely.
So they didn't cross regional lines. By 1987, it had gone national, right? The MTV thing, the Cyndi Lauper thing had already happened.
That was Vince McMahon. He basically went and brought up all the regions and Lou Albano, Cyndi Lauper, right.
Nobody else in the country had seen Hulk Hogan and Andre together. Only the fans in New York that remembered.
Right.
So they could sell it like it was a unique, brand new thing.
Absolutely. And he goes to Pontiac,
and
Michigan.
They sold the shit out of it.
I watched it the other day. I watched the old wrestling. There's nothing is better than Bobby Heenan, and Jesse the Body was great. Great announcer. He was very good. And one of the greatest announcers of all time in any sport, of course, is Gorilla Monsoon.
Gorilla Monsoon was excellent. Sometimes he fell back on a lot of his patented sayings, but that's
the beginning of the end. Charm. That's the beginning of the end.
Dropped him on his gluteus maximus.
Yeah. He went down like yesterday's newspapers, he goes. Like a ton of bricks. That's another one. Like a ton of bricks.
His son, Joey Morello, was a WWF referee during the 80s.
From Willingboro, New Jersey. They used to announce him from Manchuria. He's from
Manchuria. When he was
from
Gorilla Monsoon.
Manchuria. Gorilla Monsoon. He's from Willingboro. Right. Italian guy.
That's great. That reminds me of Special Delivery, S.D. Jones.
S.D. Jones, another great one.
Remember that guy?
He was from 19 different places.
Yeah, but the ones that stick out to me was for the longest time from Philadelphia. S.D. Jones, and then a week later
Bronx.
from Antigua in the West Indies,
and then he moved to the Bronx.
And then, I don't even know if I think he stayed in the West Indies. He passed. He passed away too.
And the great announcer in those days was Joe McCune. You remember Joe McCune?
Oh yeah, I'm Joe McCune.
He'd go and coming. I got to get my megaphone here, see if I can get it to work. Oop, I did it. Hit the wrong button. And
you remember the other announcer, right?
Well, Antonino Rocca was an announcer for years with Vince McMahon. With McMahon,
and Gary Capetta.
Yes, absolutely.
Gary Capetta.
And I'm your ring announcer, Gary Michael Capetta. Ding, 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 ding.
Right. And then Another
Jersey guy.
Joe McCune used to be, this hour of championship wrestling, your referees
That's exactly right.
for this hour of wrestling, Dick
Worley,
Willie Weber, and my name is Joe McCune. Ding, 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 ding.
He used to also mention the State Athletic Commission and Dr. George Zaharian.
Very good. And Freddie Heinbach was the other doctor. Dr. Freddie
I don't remember
Heinbach.
that doctor.
Check it out.
Zaharian was the guy who
now
used to
we're going hardcore. Dude, this is hardcore wrestling.
Zaharian was the guy who supplied the steroids. In the case in the 80s when it finally went to court, right?
Right.
Zaharian was the doctor in that suit.
So yeah, I go way back to Spiros Arion against Chief Jay Strongbow.
Oh, was he the Iron Greek?
The golden, I think it was the Golden Greek.
Golden Greek.
Yeah, the Golden Greek.
Yeah.
And I remember the match
Spiros
where
Arion.
he had Strongbow against the corner. He takes his feathers and shoves them in his mouth. Oh no! What?
He was another guy. Chief Jay Strongbow was an Italian guy
From Asbury Park. Yeah.
From Asbury
He,
Park.
was he had less. Elizabeth Warren had more Indian in her than Chief Jay Strongbow.
Oh goodness! His brother, Jules Strongbow, also another guy who was not a Native American.
Really?
Neither of them from Oklahoma.
Well, you remember Wahoo McDaniel? He played for the Jets.
Yeah, played for the Jets, right?
He was a linebacker for the Jets. Chief Wahoo McDaniel.
There was a bunch of guys that crossed over from football.
I don't think you can do that anymore, right? There's no more Indian wrestlers. You can't be doing that. That's like, you kidding me?
That shtick? No,
you can't even name a team the Redskins anymore. Forget it being Chief Jay Strongbow.
No, you can't have appropriate a Native American outfit and go out in a ring and do like a rain dance. People
He
would
did
lose
his
their minds
rain
right now.
dance. The big leg. Here comes a leg lift. Another one. He'd do like fire off like 5 in a row. Whoa! Chief. And then he threw. Then he put you in the sleeper hold, and that was it. And then if you were lucky, he woke you up when it was over. If not, he
woke you up. Right. He woke you up hard. With the chop to the traps.
Now we're talking. See, this is where wrestling is. I watch it today, and there's some very good characters there, of course. But the guys I remember the best: Stone Cold Steve Austin, one of the most underrated superstars. Definitely top 5 of all time. Flair, Hogan.
I was already out by then, but
you were out. See, I never was out. I was actually. I'm still in. I go out and in, but I was big 60s, 70s, and 80s. How about the Ultimate Warrior?
Yeah, he was around. I was still kind of into it when he got his push.
Oh, so you were in
got
that?
Huh?
I'm the sick one.
I would say up until about 1990, I was watching, and then after that, I don't really have a whole lot of. I can't tell you what the hell happened.
Well, so you weren't into the Triple H and Shawn Michaels and China and the Generation.
I met Triple H and
Generation
Stephanie
X.
McMahon. I met Triple H at where did I meet him? At the grand opening of the WWF nightclub in Times Square back in 2000. I was working.
Yeah, it was a bar grill. I went there. It was a bar. It was like on daytime, right?
They did like they tried to have like a they tried to have like a WWF themed Planet Hollywood kind of joint, right?
Yeah.
But downstairs they had like a nightclub which they tried to promote like on weekends. Yeah, on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. And we did some kind of broadcasts from there, and Triple H was there, and part of the bit was he body slammed one of my coworkers into a table with a big birthday cake on it.
Great.
It was like a bit. It was like a WWF bit.
I interviewed.
Everything's a bit with them.
When down in this area, there was a lot of independent wrestling, and I'm doing my production and announcing and stuff. And I interviewed Eddie Guerrero, the late Eddie Guerrero.
Oh wow, yeah, late Eddie.
Somewhere that's on a tape I can't find. But here's another name for you. What do you know about? Remember the Montreal screw job, Bret Hart? Remember that match?
Where they
against
where
Shawn
they took
Michaels?
The title away from him?
Yes,
against Shawn Michaels, right?
Yeah,
right.
The Montreal screw job. That's great.
Wild.
That was a great. Man. No, that was great. So, and then of course we had I mentioned Ravishing Rick Rude, and you remember Lex Luger.
Lex Luger, he was a football. Larry.
The total package.
Larry Pothole.
The total package.
He played in the USFL, actually.
Yes.
Lex Luger, yeah.
Well, The Rock played football. You know that, right? Played for Miami. And JBL played in football, too. John Bradshaw Layfield, JBL. He's a big stock guy in New York. He's you're JBL with the cowboy hat. Boy, you stopped right in time for some good wrestlers after that. So,
no.
Jake the Snake Roberts, of course. You know Jake, right?
Yeah, with the DDT
I met him too.
And his snake, Damien. You did, huh?
Yeah, I met Jake. I've met Lita, Kurt Angle. I've met.
Oh wow!
Yeah. John Cena. I actually had gotten backstage tickets in the Meadowlands. Some of my connections. I took my daughter and her friend, and we went into a side room, and it was the John Cena fan club, and you sat in this room. There was about 20 of us, and all of a sudden the door comes crashing down. Boom! It was John Cena. Now, my kids went. This one, Cena was like, the king, and
right.
Very nice guy. I said to him, Bruno Sammartino was the greatest. He said, yeah, my father loved Bruno. He was a very nice guy. His hands were like meat hooks. So big they were. I've met Andre the Giant. I saw Andre the Giant in the 70s at Toms River North High School with Gorilla Monsoon. The Valiant brothers were there. Handsome Jimmy and Luscious Johnny. I'll never forget.
Johnny.
My father was yelling at him. My father was part of the act. Because when they throw when they throw the sweat, they used to throw the sweat. Handsome Jimmy and Luscious Johnny, and they would pretend they'd have sweat and they'd like throw it, and some of the sweat, like my father thought it hit him, and he just jumped up. Great memories.
Remember the days when you said at the high school. Remember when the WWF would do their tour and they would come around like every month, pretty much. And hit the high school with the local high school with another card, and you would hear about it when you were either you saw the poster in town somewhere with like the picture in the middle of like Bob Backlund, who was the champ at the time, right?
The chicken wing,
or you crossface chicken wing, crossface, whatever it was called.
He became like a kook at the end.
The Mr. Backlund character. But the other way you heard about the local wrestling cards was when you would watch the program. Remember, it used to air at midnight on Saturdays in New York City on Channel 9. It was the only place to see wrestling once a week.
That's
so you would stay up and when the match would come on, right, they're like, okay, let's go to action. The bell would ring, and before McMahon would start his commentary, you would get a commercial voiceover, right? Typically Howard Finkel, and he would say, the following is commercial in nature. Coming soon to Asbury Park High School.
That's right.
It's Tony Gurria headlining a card of
Absolutely.
wrestling greats. Johnny Rods will also be on the card.
Rods.
Right? And then the next commercial break, and the unpredictable,
Johnny Rods. SD Jones was part of that card all the time. Santana was always. These guys drove from Jersey. Like Santana was a teacher. They'd be like, he'd pull up at the gate. They like exhausted pulling in, because they worked. They worked all day.
He lives. I believe he lives in North Jersey somewhere. Tito Santana. His family owns a salon in the Rockaway Mall. If they're still there.
I hear Rick Martel lives right around where we are. He's broadcasting from the Bullseye Studios. Rick Martel,
huh?
Yes, and I heard he still has the mullet.
Does he really? I wonder if he still walks around with the. He had the mullet, and he had that. Remember, he had a character later.
Yeah, he perfumed everybody. We had to perfume.
The arrogance. It was.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
great people with arrogance.
Oh yeah.
But my favorite Rick Martel memory though comes back from when he was co-champion, tag team champ with Tony Gurria, and they were wrestling Fuji and Saito. You remember them too? Sure. Right. And it was the match Tanaka. Where. Yeah, after Toru Tanaka, exactly. And Rick Martel leaps off the top rope, and the ref, of course, was not looking. And Mr. Fuji threw his salt that he usually keeps, before the match.
Salt.
He threw. Do you remember him throwing the salt in Rick Martel's eyes? And,
absolutely.
They covered him for the pin. Yeah, that was super controversial. Like 12-year-old me was very pissed off at that.
One of the saddest days of my life was when he threw the salt and hit Haystack Calhoun. And Haystacks, all 601 pounds of him, from Morgan's Corner, Arkansas, hits the floor, and he picks up, the horseshoe from his neck and starts ramming the horseshoe in his head.
Wow. Into whose? Fuji's head?
No, into Calhoun's head. Like, he went down, he couldn't see. They grabbed the horseshoe, and then they pulverized him with the horseshoe.
I don't think I saw that one. That's a good one.
I was upset. The Strongbow match was upset. Those are the days I used to defend the wrestling when kids used to say to me, "It's fake." No, it isn't. It's fake.
How can you say it's fake? Did you see the Macho Man smash the bell into Ricky
I used to
throat?
defend it, and then we transitioned. Then we transitioned into it's scripted, and then we went into it's choreographed. It's not fake. We moved that.
I can remember what.
You remember when Richard Belzer had that show with Hulk Hogan, and he kept busting Hulk Hogan's balls? It was on. And Hogan put him in a sleeper hold and actually knocked him out. And his head hit the ground.
He was bleeding, remember?
Yeah,
he was bleeding.
And he
Belzer
sued
was
him.
Bleeding.
Hogan got pissed.
Yeah.
Hogan got pissed because he was saying how fake it is and stuff.
That was a good one. And do you remember the 2020 report from the early 80s, 81, 82? John Stossel
with Schultz,
did that
with
big
Schultz
expose
on
Dr. D.
Dr. D, right, David Schultz. I remember that.
He slapped the shit out of that guy.
I love these stories.
Remember.
These are great stories.
Yeah.
We'll pick up the conversations in episodes coming up as we talk to Ann. So that was great. We're gonna do a little rapper-rooney here to the show because, as you know, I'm on a tight contract here. They don't want to hear.
We're done already.
We're done.
We didn't even talk about the Grand Wizard.
Next show, Grand Wizard. Be there.
Classy Freddie Blassie. Pencil Neck Geek.
Absolutely. We'll get into Freddie Blassie, Lou Albano, and more as the episodes continue. Thanks for joining us. This is Bullseye, and remember, the best is yet to come.
Every